Here is another tricky image. Now it has several details which makes it tricky to select. The background is actually quite simple, and it's almost one color and neutral. But to be honest, in this case, it will make the selection a bit difficult because it's gray, and we have quite a lot of gray details, especially around the clothes. Although it's quite dark, so luckily that's actually quite far from the background, but it's still quite similar to it. So for example, if it would be a red dress, it would be much easier to make the selection. The other tricky area is, of course, the hair, which is always tricky, and that will need some time to make the selection. And then the other difficulty in this image is the transparency. So all these details should be see-through, and it should show up perfectly in the final image. So we should be able to place any colored background behind this, and we should be able to see through the dress. So I am going to concentrate here on the dress only, because we already did similar images where we had the hair and the full length body and hard edges. So we had all these issues before, but the new thing here is the dress. So what would I do in this case? Well, let me concentrate on a smaller portion of this image. I'm going to make a selection first of all with the lasso tool, and I'm going to concentrate on this bottom part. So let me just make a selection of the skirt, especially like that. After this, I'm going to go to the select color range option, and there I'm going to click on the background. Now you can see that it makes a selection, and we have it set to invert. So for now, I'm just going to turn off invert and try to select everything from the background. Then I'm going to reduce fuzziness, and as you can see, it actually does quite a good job already. So anything that's white is going to be selected as part of the background, and anything that is black is going to be deselected. So if I want to remove the background, that is great, but I actually want to separate the dress from the background. So now I'm going to click on invert. And that looks quite good. So let's just click on OK, and let's turn this into a pixel mask. It's always good to have another layer below this image. So let me just do that, add another layer below it. So already I can see a couple of issues here. Like here on the right side, we have some remaining details which we can quickly draw over, either using the burn tool or the brush tool. We can quickly get rid of this. So that's a quite good tool to use always for these type of problems. And then let's alt click on this again to go back to normal. Now these parts, obviously the leg should be solid, so I'm going to use the brush tool and draw over these with white. So they definitely need to be completely solid and fully visible. So I'm just going to draw over these details. Also the feet should be fully visible, something like that. Okay, and we can go up here as well and extend the selection a bit on those areas. So you can see already that we did quite a good job already. If I shift click on this, I can check before and after, and I can already see a couple of more details which should be solid, like this part here should be completely solid on the dress, and there's also some details here which are more like highlights. They shouldn't be transparent, but all the rest should be actually transparent. So let's just have a look before and after. But there are a couple of details like here where the actual material gets lost a bit. You can see on the edges it gets lost a bit. So what I would do in these cases is to reduce the opacity of my brush maybe to 30%, and drawing over these details with white, I'm just adding slightly back the opacity on these details. Let's have a look again. Yep, that's more closer to what we need. So here, just add a little bit more back of the material, make it visible again a little bit more, make it smaller the brush, and maybe follow the edge once more, and this part again a little bit more. So that looks already much more realistic, closer to how it was. And I can do the same thing here as well. Maybe select a bit softer brush so we can go over these details a couple of times. That looks better. And also I would say this one here in the middle should be a bit less transparent. So we can just add a little bit more thickness to the dress there. Also the same applies here. I can add a bit more thickness, then a little bit more around here. Wherever we want to add thickness, just draw over it a bit with the brush. And the same applies on this part here. We can add a little bit more thickness back. So I think that is quite a good selection already. Maybe here at the bottom we can add again a little bit more. It's just too transparent. We start to lose the fabric. Okay, something like that. So let's have a look at the mask itself. If we find a couple of details which we don't like, we can always use, for example, the burn tool and just go around the edges just to get rid of that halo. Sometimes if you use a soft edge brush, it creates this halo, which you can easily get rid of with the burn tool, like here as well. We can just go over it once more. So now once again, I can see a couple of other mistakes here. I would just draw over these as well. And let's have a look. Now it looks already much better. So if I select the background layer and I use the hue saturation, I can now change it to different colors, and we can see it works really well with all kinds of different colors, just like it would in real life. So that was the most difficult part of this image, and after this I would just carry on doing the same thing on the upper body. I would again make a selection, but to be honest, this was probably the most difficult part, because after this it's almost all about hard edges and a little bit of soft edges around the hair. So this is almost like a new definition, the transparency. You normally have soft edges, hard edges, and transparency, which is almost like a special type of edge. So that's all I wanted to show you in this example. And in the next one, we will have a look at multiple masking and see why it can be useful in cases when you need to have different variants of your masking or selection.